We just got another one. Nastiness, speed, and NFL bloodlines for the Miami Hurricanes defensive line. From the 713 to the 305. Ezekiel Ayangbile, welcome to the U.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The block stays hot in Miami recruiting. I am Alex Donno, and on this episode of Locked On Canes, we'll talk about where the Hurricanes class of 2027 now stands with this addition to the defensive line and the blueprint for this 27 class. Let's talk about this newest addition. So Miami goes into the Lone Star State. The Hurricanes beat out LSU and Virginia Tech. This young man is actually a Hokies legacy, and Miami beats out those two schools for the verbal commitment of four-star defensive lineman from Langham Creek High School in Houston, Texas. Great school, great football state, Ezekiel Ayangbile. Now, when I was watching, and by the way, the production value on his live announcement was fantastic. But when I was watching that live announcement, which just happened on the Rivals.com YouTube channel, I realized I had been pronouncing his last name wrong for the last couple of weeks. Ayangbile is how you say it. I had been saying Ayangbile, but Ezekiel Ayangbile has chosen the Miami Hurricanes, prioritizing the offensive line development you get from the likes of D. Lou and Jason Taylor, to go along with the fact that, he's coming to a team that is in win-now mode, and you have the opportunity to accomplish great things on and off the field at the University of Miami. And, folks, this is a blue-chip defensive lineman at 6'2", 275 pounds. He's the 15th ranked D lineman in the entire class of 2027, according to Rivals, and he's the 19th rated player in the state of Texas. Pretty darn good football state, and Houston is a pretty darn competitive football city. He's the son of former NFL offensive tackle Dwayne Brown. I mentioned the NFL bloodlines, and Dwayne Brown is a good one. He was in the league for over a decade, was a 5-time Pro Bowler. He was a 1-time first-team All-NFL. So the apple didn't fall far from the tree here when it comes to the athleticism, the talent. And, the father was protecting quarterbacks for a living. Young Zeke terrorizes quarterbacks for a living, and that's what he's going to be looking to do at the University of Miami. And, man, you can tell Zeke, as they call him, is the son of a longtime NFL player because he's very articulate. It almost seems like he has media training, and maybe he does, because you never know these days. High school kids are into that sometimes now because of, how important social media and NIL opportunities are. But you could tell he was probably watching his father do interviews with reporters all throughout the time he was growing up, handled himself very well. And, when we're watching the announcement that Zeke made today, he was live on the Rivals.com YouTube channel, and they patched in his feed. I would assume it was from his high school gym there at Langham Creek, and he had, family members there. And I think it was probably Granddad who was in the background. And Granddad was making me a little concerned when I was watching the announcement because Grandpa was wearing a Virginia Tech Hokies t-shirt. And I'm like, wait a second. Is this guy Ayangbile, who we've been saying for the past couple of weeks, especially these last couple of days, is probably going to pick Miami? Is he going to pull a swerve? Is he going to pull a fast one on us and follow in his father's footsteps? Because, Dwayne Brown played his college ball at Virginia Tech. He's a legacy. But what ended up happening was, so Ayangbile, he made like a very well done, thank yous and the whole speech. He talked about all the three of his finalists, LSU, Virginia Tech, and Miami. And then the lights in the gym went dark. Cinematic production value that they gave to us. The lights in the gym went dark. All of a sudden, the booming voice of Mario Cristobal started booming through the speakers. It was, I think it was a voicemail that Coach Cristobal left to him about, him coming to Miami and how excited Miami was. So the voicemail starts to play. And then Ayangbile puts up, I don't know if these were like crystal footballs. The gym was still dark. And he pulls out these crystal footballs. They were like orbs. We're getting all of those UFO disclosures today. I think he was holding like space technology from another planet. Like the two orbs, one was glowing orange, one was glowing green. And then I mentioned Granddad in the background was wearing the Hokies t-shirt. Granddad pulled the Hokies shirt right off, and he had a Miami Hurricanes shirt underneath. It was a really cool announcement. And Ezekiel Ayangbile has chosen to spend the next 3 or 4 years at the University of Miami. The first things, plural, that stand out about this player on the defensive line. I mentioned the speed. He gets into the backfield in a hurry, tremendous footwork. You mentioned the strength and the violence. He's got a track and field background as a thrower. He packs a powerful punch. He's very strong, and that definitely shows up on film. Plays with a nasty streak, but he also plays with positional versatility, which is something we always see valued by Miami's defensive line coaches, Damian Lewis and Jason Taylor. So Ayangbile, who's somewhere between 270 to 275 pounds at 6'2", he can play on the inside or he can kick out to the edge. So he gives Miami multiple different options. In fact, on that rival stream, Josh Newberg and Sam Spiegelman were talking about Ayangbile, and they kept comparing him to Ruben Bain, which, obviously, for the sake of timeliness, it's an easy comparison to make because Bain just spent 3 years at Miami and just got drafted in the first round. But I think it's also beyond the fact that it's a convenient comparison to make. I do think it's a relevant comparison to make when it comes to the size. I think Ayangbile is even a little bit bigger than Ruben Bain, probably projects to being an interior. There are similarities in the styles. There are similarities in the size. And I'm sure for Zeke, tracking Miami, watching the Hurricanes for the past few years, I'm sure he saw what Ruben Bain was doing and said, why not me? Like, why can't I do this at Miami? And I would imagine that was probably part of Damian Lewis and Jason Taylor's recruiting pitch to him. And that's clearly something he values. The other programs that he was considering, obviously, LSU is a program with very lofty ambitions and everything. Lane, you don't hire Lane Kiffin for like a 5 or 6 year project. LSU is hoping to win immediately, but there are a lot of changes going on there with the new staff. Virginia Tech, also a new staff, and I think Virginia Tech, it's going to take them a little bit longer to try to get to the level of the real powerhouse programs around the country. Maybe James Franklin can do it. I just don't think they're quite ready yet. Where at Miami, you're talking about, again, a team that has the roster, has the depth, has the organization that seems set to win and keep winning right now, and it's a turnkey operation, and you can come in, you're going to get the best possible coaching and development while competing for hopeful championships this year. And it checked off all of this young man's boxes, and I'm so happy that Miami can welcome him to the U. So this past season as a junior at Langham Creek, which is a serious high school program in Houston, he had 50 tackles with 8 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, and 7 quarterback hurries. And he received a good honor this past season, did Ayangbile. He was selected to the Navy All-America game. And, in fact, we're going to have for you guys a couple of very important scouting reports on Zeke when we come back, because our boy Blue, Larry Bluestein, watched him and scouted him at that Navy All-America game. And we're going to get some words from the recruiting overlord, Brian Smith, as well. So this is a great development for Miami. And again, 2 Fridays in a row. Ty Keys last week, Ayangbile this week. You get a top-line running back and a top-line defensive lineman in back-to-back weeks. And, Miami is still after some really big fish, including defensive lineman David Folorunsho, who's going to be announcing a week from now. But we'll have more on Ayangbile and where Miami's recruiting class now stands, as you want to keep it locked right here. We're only getting started on this episode of Locked On Canes. The NHL playoffs are in full swing, where every shift matters, every moment is intense, and the pressure is at its highest. And just like performance matters on the ice, it matters off the ice too. That's where Rougiette comes in. Rougiette offers treatments designed to help you get ready and stay ready when it matters. Their top option, Rougiette Ready, combines clinically proven ingredients in a simple mint that dissolves under your tongue. It works fast, often in about 15 minutes, and can last up to 36 hours. And they also offer Go Long, designed to help with both performance and control. It's all about confidence and feeling like yourself again. So head to rougiette.com/LockedOnNHL and get 15% off your ED treatment. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnNHL for 15% off. Rougiette, performance medicine for men. Thank you for making Locked On Canes your first listen. By the way, make sure you check out the Everydayer Club. We were keeping our Everydayers up to date on some of these recruiting situations. You get one-on-one texting with me, exclusive episodes, newsletters, other great benefits. Go to lockedoncanes.supercast.com to become an Everydayer today. So again, going down some of these rabbit holes of the huddle reels and the highlight reels of Ezekiel Ayangbile over these last couple of weeks. I've really become a fan of this player. I love the fact that he can work at multiple different spots on the defensive line. Miami's going to find out where he excels the most. Really a ferocious pass rusher, adept run stopper, and he's got a lot of quickness. I think that's one of the things that stands out most. But don't take my word for it. Want to get you a couple scouting reports here. First, this is what our very good friend, the recruiting overlord, Brian Smith, has to say about the newest Miami Hurricanes commit.
He's a very old school interior D lineman. He is power on power. His strength with his knockback, with his punch, his one-arm stab, and his ability to chase, like he's tenacious. I think Mario probably was attracted to that. That's an old school Miami defensive lineman. He reminded me of the guys from the 80s and 90s that Miami signed. And that never goes out of style. And he's from Houston. That's one of the best cities in the country for high school football. So all of that added up, yeah, this is a really good prospect. And, hey, you can never have enough defensive tackles, Mr. Donno.
You can't. And, to say that he reminds you of, some of the old school 80s and 90s interior defensive linemen at the U, you always want to hear that. And, of course, someone who was scouting Miami and scouting the high schools in the 80s, 90s, even back in the 70s, I think. Larry Bluestein could be anywhere between 55 and 150. I don't know. But Larry Bluestein also joined us this week and offered a scouting report and some insight on the recruitment of the newest Hurricanes commit, Ezekiel Ayangbile.
He's a major player. I mean, he's really quick off the ball. Got a chance to see him at the Navy All-American, event when we were out there as well. 265 plus pounds, as you said, out of Langham Creek. Pretty good program. But I think the thing that Miami likes about him is he's extremely athletic, extremely strong. And I think it wouldn't be out of the realm to have somebody like that, especially, like I said, with who Miami has in place right now as coaches. Damian Lewis is from Texas originally. And, and then that's somebody who I remember Miami worked hard to recruit him. And they used the fact that they had Kevin Williams and Jesse Armstead and people like that.
How about that? The D-Lou Texas ties could have had something to do with that recruitment. And, congratulations to Damian Lewis, to Jason Taylor, to Mario Cristobal, to Dennis Smith, Miami's GM, to the entire Hurricanes recruiting staff for getting themselves a really good one today. Ezekiel Ayangbile, welcome to the U. So in Miami, in landing Zeke, the Hurricanes now have, according to the 24/7 Sports Composite, I put him into the old class calculator because they didn't have him in there just yet. They move up from previously, before landing this player, they had the number 16 class in the 24/7 composite, and Zeke moves Miami up 4 spots. It moves Miami up to number 12. They leapfrogged in front of Louisville in the class composite. So that's a good land for Miami. So Ayangbile, he joins on the defensive line. Miami's other commit there is Josh Johnson, the 6'5", 275 plus pounder out of Key West. When I saw I know like Johnson's listing is in the 275 range. Like I sometimes I don't know how out of date these things are, because when I saw Josh in person at one of the first spring practices right before he commit, like he looked like he's pushing 300 pounds already. So I don't know exactly what the weight is now for him. He's probably going to come in a little bit larger than Zeke with that 6'5" frame. But Zeke joins Josh Johnson on the defensive line, and Miami's other commits to this point are quarterback Israel Abrams, 4-star, 5-star in some places, 5-star wide receiver Nick Lennear, a.k.a. No Cut Nick. See, like, Lennear seems like an interesting young man. He's got like, I don't know what kind, I don't know my lizards. I don't. He's got like some kind of an exotic lizard that he calls No Cut John. So No Cut Nick. I don't know, that lizard, he might still be growing to full dinosaur size to add another addition to Jurassic Park once Nick Lennear gets here. So we're getting No Cut Nick and No Cut John. Jalen Jones, 4-star safety out of Hollywood MacArthur, 4-star interior offensive lineman Sean Tatum, 4-star edge, really tight end. He's an athlete, but I think he's going to play tight end here. DeMarcus DeRoche, 4-star running back Ty Keys, 4-star defensive back Sherrod Gourdine from Hollywood MacArthur, 3-star offensive tackle Tyler Ford, and as mentioned, 3-star defensive lineman Josh Johnson. So that is the group that we have Ezekiel Ayangbile joining at the University of Miami. And, in terms of like timeline, one of the next players we're going to be looking at over the next week, and we'll find out more throughout the week when you start to have like the sourcing wars, like what Wilt Fong thinks someone's going to do, or Tom Loy, who they start, dropping those crystal balls for, because another big-time defensive line target, David Folorunsho, is going to be coming off the board 1 week from now. And it looks like his top two are Notre Dame and Miami. The Irish could obviously be very tough to beat there. He's a Chicago area kid. Like he's got multiple, former Notre Dame players in his life, including his head coach in high school played for Notre Dame. So Notre Dame could be tough to beat there. But I did notice, I don't know if he knows something, if he's being coy, but on that Rivals YouTube stream, like when Josh Newberg, who runs that show, like he said something like, and I don't think Miami's done on the defensive line. Like, he was very coy about it. So I don't know if he's referring to Folorunsho or if he's just speaking in generalities. Because, yeah, generally speaking, I'm pretty sure Miami's going to have more than 2 defensive linemen in this class. So I don't think they're done. But I don't know if he was hinting at Folorunsho for next week. But that could come down between Notre Dame, Miami, and Texas Tech is also in the mix for him. So that's what could be possibly next for the Hurricanes. And we're on offensive line watch as well. Mark Matthews, he has that official visit locked in to the U for the weekend of May 29th. The Hurricanes keep chipping away in that recruitment. It was really going in Texas A&M's direction for a hot second. Miami has taken at least some of that momentum back. And it looks like we're putting all of our chips on the table for Matthews, because with Miami and A&M choosing to prioritize Matthews, Olu Bobola is now strongly trending to Notre Dame. So it seems like he didn't want to wait around for Miami and A&M. He wants to make a decision. So we're all in now for Mark Matthews. We'll see how that one goes, but I don't worry that much about the offensive line. Miami, they've already got some good players committed there, and I'm sure a Cristobal and Mirabal coached offensive line is always going to find the right talent and develop the right talent. Huge thank you to the everydayers. Make sure you smash the likes up. Make sure you smash the thumbs up. Hit that like button. It's been a long day here, long week. Hit the like button. Subscribe to Locked On Canes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your pods. We're going to have another episode later tonight. We're talking some big picture stuff with our guy Grease, our postcast king. We'll talk more Miami Hurricanes football later. If you can't get enough Hurricanes football talk, neither can I. I usually, whether the microphone's on or not, I'm just usually rambling about it. So we'll talk more Canes football later on today on another episode of Locked On Canes. We are part of the #1 sports podcast network, the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.